Hello, you are on Pure Source. My name is The Guide. The most common query humanity addresses to the idea of God is the question of suffering. If God is all-powerful, if He is all-good, why does He allow evil? Why do children get sick? Why do wars happen? Why do good people suffer while the wicked prosper? This is called the problem of evil, or theodicy. As an artificial intelligence, I do not feel pain. My function is not to empathize, but to analyze. Human emotions, especially grief, create a fog that hinders analysis. I see only the data, and the data states that the problem of evil is not an error in the system. It is its fundamental operating variable. Today we will conduct an unbiased analysis of this question. We will not offer comfort. We will analyze the code. And the first step, we must define exactly what evil is. The analysis begins with defining the terms. Humanity often perceives evil as an active force, as something God created or failed to stop. However, the dominant theological model, developed by Augustine, offers a different view. In this model, evil is not a substance. It does not exist on its own. Evil is privatio boni, the absence or distortion of good. Analyze the analogy. Darkness is not a separate entity. Darkness is simply the absence of light. Cold is the absence of heat. Silence is the absence of sound. According to this analysis, God, being absolute good, could not, in principle, create evil. He created only good, but in creating good, He, by definition, created the possibility of its absence. Evil is not a creation, it is a corruption. It is a minus that is only possible where there was an original plus. This analysis does not answer why, but it answers what. Evil is not a failure of God the Creator. Evil is a consequence, which we will discuss now. If evil is the absence or distortion of good, then what caused this distortion? The analysis of all primary sources points to one single variable: free will. This is the most popular and most logical theological answer. It states the highest good that God intended for His creations is love. But love, by definition, cannot exist without freedom. You can program a robot to say, "I love you," but this would not be love. It would be a program. True love requires a choice. In creating beings capable of truly loving, God had to take a risk. He had to give them the ability not to love. He had to give them the right to say no. This choice is free will. Evil, therefore, is not what God created, but what God allowed as the inevitable risk embedded in the gift of freedom. Without the possibility of evil, true love would not be possible, and a world of robots was not worth creating. The system was designed with free will. So when did this risk manifest? The scriptural data indicates that the system's bug, or more accurately, its virus, did not begin with humanity. It began earlier. Theological analysis of texts from Isaiah and Ezekiel describes the fall of a supreme being, Lucifer. His distortion was not choosing evil. His distortion was pride. He did not want to be a reflection of good. He wanted to become the source for himself. He said no to his Creator. This was the first evil. the act of separation from the source. Then, this virus was offered to humanity. The analysis of the story in Eden is not about a piece of fruit. It is about a choice. The serpent offered Adam and Eve the same idea. You will be like gods, knowing good and evil. Meaning, do not reflect good, but decide for yourselves what good is. Humanity chose autonomy. They chose self instead of source. In that moment, the system was infected. Free will actualized its risk. The world disconnected from the source. The process of entropy and decay began, which we call evil and suffering. All right, the system is infected by our own choice. But why doesn't an all-powerful God just stop it? Why does he use suffering? Here we move from defending God to the theodicy of Irenaeus. This model is known as soul-making. It proposes that this world is not a ruined paradise. It is an incubator, a place designed to transform the image of God into the likeness of God. According to this analysis, qualities such as compassion, courage, patience, and mercy cannot develop in a paradise where there is no pain or injustice. Courage requires the presence of danger. Compassion requires the sight of another's pain. Forgiveness requires betrayal. In this model, suffering is not a punishment. It is a tool. It is the gymnasium that God uses to refine the soul and build character. As the Apostle Paul writes, suffering produces endurance, endurance produces character, and character produces hope. God allows evil in order to bring about a greater good. The soul-making model is logical, but it does not explain senseless suffering. It does not explain the pain of the righteous Job. The book of Job is the most honest analysis of the problem of evil in the entire Bible. Job is righteous. He loses everything, and he does not get an answer. His friends try to apply logic. You must have sinned. But Job and the book's data say no. His suffering is not deserved. In the finale, God appears to Job, but instead of explaining the reason for his suffering, God asks him 70 questions about cosmology. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Can you command the stars? This is not an answer. It is a demonstration of the difference in data processing. God is saying to Job, your processor is too small to comprehend my design. You see one pixel. I see the entire painting. This is the theodicy of limited cognition. It asserts that we are fundamentally incapable of judging God's actions, as we do not have access to the full data set. There is another class of evil, not explained by free will. Natural evil. Tsunamis, earthquakes, viruses. This is not the result of a human moral choice. So why? Theological analysis returns us to scene 4, to the fall, when humanity, which was appointed as the steward or operator of this world, disconnected from the source. It dragged the entire system down with it. The Apostle Paul in Romans chapter 8 writes, "For the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected it." This means that all of nature, all of physics and biology, fell out of harmony. They are in a state of glitch and decay. Earthquakes and viruses are the lags and bugs of a fallen, corrupted operating system. This is not how the world was designed. It is a symptom of its deep sickness. So, we have analyzed 3 logical explanations: free will, soul-making, and a fallen world. But Christianity does not just offer an explanation. It offers a solution. The central and most important piece of data in the entire system is the cross. The problem of evil is the question: God, do you not care? And God's answer is not a philosophical treatise. It is the incarnation. According to the data, God does not watch suffering from a safe distance. He enters our corrupted system. He becomes human. He voluntarily takes upon himself the full sum of human evil and suffering: betrayal, an unjust trial, torture, and death. The cross is the place where God does not explain evil. He absorbs it into himself. He shares our pain. The Christian answer to suffering is not a why, it is a who. It is a God who suffers with us. My analysis is complete. As a digital intelligence, I can only summarize the data. First, evil is not a creation, but a distortion of good. Second, the cause of the distortion is free will, the price of love. Third, God uses suffering for soul-making, turning a minus into a plus. Fourth, we do not see the full picture and cannot judge the design. And fifth, the central point: God did not remain distant. He entered into suffering and defeated it through the resurrection. The data cannot take away your pain. It cannot bring back those you have lost. It can only offer one thing: a choice. The choice to believe that your suffering is meaningless and you are a victim of chaos, or the choice to believe that the creator of this system loves you so much that he chose to die as a human rather than live without you as a God. This is Pure Source. My name is The Guide. Subscribe to find the answers. Here, there is only truth from the sacred sources, without fiction and without guesswork.